Hello, we're going to talk about campaign financing and money. This is just a review. Blue 1 has already gone over this. Blue 2 probably needs to focus on this since we didn't go over it in detail, although your assignment did that you had to do. So really this question is asking about money and campaigning, and really are campaigns too expensive? We do know that fundraising takes up a ton of time, and really the closer you get to election day, the more money is needed. Incumbents, and we defined this word the other day, an incumbent is a current office holder. Incumbents do worse when they spend more money because they need it when they face tough challengers. And I really want to qualify that. An incumbent is the current office holder. So Jay Nixon, our governor, current incumbent. Sam Graves is an incumbent. What I mean by that, when I say incumbents do worse when they spend more money because they need it when they face tough challengers, sometimes a primary race is very difficult. And if they spend all their money defending their record, then they have to turn around and spend it again in the general. Normally, 90% of the time, an incumbent will win a race, and they really do have a huge advantage to raising money. They have free airtime because anything they do is reported on. They can visit their constituents. So sometimes a challenger just can't ward off the advantages of an incumbent. The doctrine of sufficiency suggests that candidate needs just enough money to win, and sometimes races are up to 25 million, and sometimes they're only 100,000 or so. So it just depends on that. This is a dollar sign right here, and each dollar sign represents a million. Each hand is a visit during the 2004 election. So take a look at all the times a candidate visited Florida, Ohio, Illinois, Iowa. We talked about Iowa being a front loader, New Hampshire, and this is just incredible to see how much they need to win the Electoral College. This is money spent, and you can see again in an election when you know there is a swing state, they pour tons of money into it. So $1 million, I mean, look at all this. You can't even tell how much it is. You know that a normal presidential race and a senatorial race are very expensive to run. So as we go through this, I'll probably refer to these, but I just wanted to put up a quick cheat sheet. FEC is a Federal Election Commission. BCRA is a Bipartisan Campaign Finance Reform Act. And remember, bipartisan means two-party. Nonpartisan means no party. And this was the 2002 Act. It's also synonymous with the McCain-Feingold Act, and they often call it that because those are the two senators who sponsored it. Hard money, this was set forth in the amendments. These are political donations raised from federally permissible sources within the limits established by the BCRA and originally the 1971 Act that established it. It used to be $1,200. Now a person can give $2,300. I'll double check that, but that's how much one person can give directly to a candidate. PACs can only give $5,000 directly to a candidate, and normally $25,000 total a person can spend in a campaign year. They're trying to eliminate those fat cats, which are the millionaires. Soft money I'll refer to as well. This is any money spent on behalf of a candidate without the candidate's knowledge or permission, or if the candidate didn't really endorse it. Political donations made in such a way. So these are often loopholes, and I'm just going to go through some of the rules and how it's happened. So sources of funding, this is just a quick chart to see where money comes from in campaigns. Ironically, and you wouldn't really think this, but candidates get most of their money from small contributors. Normally, $10 checks sent in, $25 checks sent in. These are all ways to disclose money. A candidate, by law, must disclose where their money comes from. Any cash contributions over $100 must be declared no foreign contributions. Wealthy supporters, the candidates themselves may give money. And I will refer to Buckley versus Vallejo in a little bit, but Buckley was the case that said money equals speech because the first acts tried to limit the amount a candidate could spend on themselves. And people challenged that and said that is not fair because why should the government tell me how much I can spend of my own money? And it was definitely overturned. Non-party groups such as PACs, temporary fundraising organizations like Swift Boat Veterans for Truth was only around for a little bit, and then of course government subsidies. And I will tell you, only presidential candidates get federal funding. And this is a huge deal. It costs so much to run for president, normally between $1 to $200 million for the whole cycle, that in the general election, the American people give, I think it's probably almost up to $100 million to each major party candidate if they qualify for funds. And the way you can qualify for presidential matching funds, and I went over this in class the other day, but remember, a candidate has to raise in 20 different states at least $5,000, and no individual contribution can be over $250. And if they can do that, they can qualify for government subsidies, which is really a ton, but fundraising has become so huge anymore. Candidates can bypass it, say no thank you federal government, and then they have no limits on their spending. That's what both candidates did in 2012. They refused to take federal funding so they could surpass the limits set by the federal government. So campaign spending, you can look at the estimated amount to buy each person's vote, and I'll let you go over and just look at that really. $2, $2, $4. Here's where the campaign ads really got kicked in because they tried to limit fat cats. I would venture to guess that in 2016 that could probably be closer to $100. So let me go over some of the definite laws that have been passed. Remember, campaign financing is linked to how candidates raise their money. And many people thought that wealthy individuals had too much say in buying candidates. So the first, most recent act, and you can look at the history, which I'll show you in a little bit, but these first acts started in 71, 72, and were amended in these later years. That's why you often see different dates. But one of the main things it did, it set up an oversight committee. And they established the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. And what that does is it monitors and regulates campaign finances. Every federal candidate has to send a report to the FEC telling them where they got their money. So the FEC is a bipartisan committee that oversees that. And you can go to fec.gov, I think. It's quite a fascinating site. They also established that since people are trying so hard to raise money, why don't we establish presidential finance or public financing in presidential elections? Remember, this is not for congressmen. Congressmen have to raise every dollar that they spend in a campaign. They are up for re-election every 2 years, senators every 6 years. So it is quite a bit, but public financing is available in the general election. They established what we call hard money, and I mentioned that earlier. And what that is they finally set limits on how much a person can give a candidate or a PAC can. They required disclosure, which is telling a person again where you got your money, so they have to file campaign finance reports, and most campaigns now have an accountant. And they limited contributions in campaigns. Another thing they did originally was they limited the amount a person could spend on themselves. And that was challenged in the court case, again, Buckley versus Vallejo. And you'll see several slides on that in a minute. But Buckley basically said, a person can spend their own money however they want, and we will strike down that portion of the Campaign Finance Act. So it was challenged and overturned, and therefore individuals can still spend their own money. Well, what this law did, this is sort of a cause and effect. An effect of this law was really what we now call soft money. And to get around all these new requirements, candidates found ways for people to support them without directly giving them the money. And that's what soft money is. Contributions with no limits used for what they call party building expenses or getting out the vote drives, but they tend to support a certain candidate. Now, soft money cannot be coordinated with a candidate, but it can be spent to help a candidate. So that's really where soft money can go up into the millions and sometimes billions. To get around this contribution, and let me go back here too. Interest groups, I need to add this, and in this law up here, interest groups were banned from giving money directly to a candidate. So what they formed were those PACs. So a loophole was, PACs can be created by an interest group. So interest groups created, let's say we had the NRA, so they created the NRA PAC, and now the NRA PAC gives money to a candidate, and they can give up to $5,000 to any candidate who supports their views. Well, what we saw after these laws was an incredible increase in PACs because they were limited individually, so they came up with this loophole. Well, the McCain-Feingold Act again addressed money in elections, and what they wanted to do was really ban this type of money and also increase hard money. So anytime you see McCain-Feingold, again also called the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, it increased the amount individuals can contribute. So hard money limits set in the FEC Act were increased. So the $1,200 went up to $2,300. So hard money was increased to address inflation. And what it also tried to do was limit those issue ads. And issue ads, again, are ads meant to support a candidate, but they can't directly name the candidate. Gets a little confusing there. This is a Super PAC video, and I showed first hour and second hour. I'll try to put the link up on my site, but you're not going to be able to watch that at this point right now. Sorry, I think I've frozen it. Oh, that's not good. Sorry, guys. There we go. Little technical difficulty. It wants to freeze up. All right, so I'm going to stop the video on this portion right here, and then I will come back and we can finish up with the recording.